Well, a Texas state representative is facing criticism tonight for rejecting any new gun control laws in the wake of the Odessa mass shooting. Here's a part of his now viral tweet stream. Do something is the statement we keep hearing. I'm not going to use the evil acts of a handful of people to diminish the God-given rights of my fellow Texans, period. So let's talk to him. Republican Texas State Representative Matt Schaefer joins us, along with Fox News contributor Leslie Marshall. Welcome to you both.
Good evening,
Good
Jen.
to be here.
Okay, Representative, I saw your tweets. There were a number of them through the weekend, and there were a lot of folks who thought it was just completely inappropriate in the wake of what had just happened. What kind of criticism have you faced, and how do you respond?
Well, we've had a lot of criticism, in particular, of the fact that we even mention the word God when we talk about this. But we talk about God because we believe that the right to self-defense is God-given. And that's a belief that's shared by many Texans and by many Americans. And so to be mocked for that is really shocking. But I can tell you that locally, in my community in East Texas and around the state, I've received a lot of support for what I said, because these proposals that they're putting out to take guns away, to restrict gun rights, those are broken ideas. They're just going to make good people into criminals, and they're not going to make us safer.
What about that, Leslie? Because a lot of folks have said, and they point to the story we had a little bit earlier about the young woman down in Texas who used this gun to defend herself. And I know you have faced some pretty terrifying things in your own life. What about the fact that people say you pass more gun restrictions, criminals are not going to pay attention to them, and it's good people who may lose the ability to defend themselves?
Well, this woman who defended herself, as many people who do, was not carrying an assault weapon in her purse. She did not get it illegally, and she didn't borrow it from Congressman Crenshaw. But what we do see is the idea that more guns make us safer. And in Texas, where they have, they're in the top percentage in the United States of guns owned per capita, per household in that state, you had El Paso, you had Odessa, and when I sat on the couch next to the Lieutenant Governor of Texas, and I asked him face to face, could you please tell me, Mr. Patrick, why in the state of Texas, when you have so many concealed carry permits, this is after El Paso, why nobody stopped that gunman? And he said, because those people ran away from the gunman, because that, Shannon, is our human nature. It is fight or flight. This woman saved her life, but that is not the story the majority of the time. And if it was, then with the increased gun ownership, not just in Texas, but across this country, we should have less mass killings, and we do not.
Yeah, I mean, we do see stories of people who run towards these things, and then a lot of times they're former military or law enforcement officers themselves, or just people who are thoroughly trained. And Representative, I mean, that takes an investment of your time and willingness to do those kinds of things. But how do you respond to Leslie's statistics regarding Texas?
Well, this woman showed great bravery, and it's really an insult to people to say that they shouldn't have the right to have that gun to defend themselves because you don't know how they're going to react. Well, you don't know how you are going to react either, but that is a God-given right to protect your family, to protect your property, to protect your home, and that's not going to be taken away in Texas. Let me tell you, you want a Texas-sized fight. This is it right here. The criminals don't obey the laws. It's a profoundly simple concept, but it seems to be harder and harder for the left to grasp. You pass these laws, you're going to hurt good people, and you're going to keep the guns in the hands of the criminals.
Well, Leslie, and quick final word to you about what people are saying. Listen, if you talk about, as some of the Democratic contenders are openly talking about taking guns back from people, confiscating, if you say mandatory buyback, that does mean confiscation. There are millions of people in this country who aren't going to go along with that, not peacefully.
And I agree, but this is not what the majority of Democrats in the Democratic Party, not just Democrats, but majority of Americans want. Majority of Americans want universal background checks. Majority of Americans don't want people with a mental illness having guns. And now majority of Americans, even Republicans, are saying, hey, assault weapons ban, good idea. That doesn't take away your Second Amendment right. It doesn't take away all your guns, and it doesn't stop you from protecting your family or killing Bambi and his friends in the forest, because you don't need an assault weapon to do that. And with regarding God, I have read the Bible a number of times cover to cover. And one of the reasons, I must say this, and I'm going to get in trouble for saying this, but I left Christianity because of the perversion of God's word. God does say, I believe in the Bible, that we have an inalienable right to defend ourselves, but not with these types of weapons that I just can't buy.
Yeah, it's important to note that when you talk about assault weapons, a lot of times that's thrown around, and people need to understand the last ban, it was pretty much dealing with cosmetic things, scopes, bayonets, things that could be added to the gun that didn't change the ability of that gun to fire bullets and the way that they were fired. So, people, we need to clarify when we're talking about things. But quick final word to you, Representative, about the religious issue there.
Well, Shannon, first of all, I want to make a point. Look at what's happening in Chicago with some of the strictest gun laws in the country. How's it working out there? It's not working out. These policies have no effect on the criminals. And, it really is, it goes back to what freedom really means in this country. And it's an old idea. And it is inherent in the way we think about ourselves in Texas. And yes, we do believe that God gives us that right to self-defense. And we don't believe it gives you the right to tell us how to do it. These types of rifles are common in Texas. They are the commonly owned rifle. They are used for sporting. They are used for hunting. And if people choose to use them for self-defense, that might be the best tool for them.
Okay.
But that's not for the government to determine.
We're going to leave it there, but I know that there are a lot of folks out there that hope that the two sides can find some kind of common ground that would actually make a difference. So we'll see when Washington gets back next week. In the meantime, Leslie Marshall, Representative Schaefer, great to have you both.
Thank you.
Thank you, Shannon.